Ladies and gentlemen, today, the name Mercedes-Benz is more than a brand. It is a legacy. A symbol etched in chrome, wrapped in leather, and fueled by over a century of relentless pursuit for excellence. It is elegance sculpted in metal, engineering translated into movement, power born of precision. It represents innovation, refinement, and the will to dream beyond the possible. But long before the silver star adorned the hoods of limousines and supercars, long before it raced through history books and onto racetracks and royal motorcades, it began in silence, in struggle, in a small town, with a boy, a poor boy, born not with advantage but with an uphill climb, a boy named Carl Benz. He entered this world in 1844 in the town of Mühlberg, Germany, a place of cobblestone streets and working-class hands. His father was a locomotive driver, a man of coal, steel, and steam. But tragedy struck early. When Carl was just 2 years old, his father passed away, leaving behind nothing but a widow, a child, and a dream not yet born. But in that heartbreak stood a woman, Carl's mother. With no wealth, no title, and no man to carry her forward, she made a decision few would make. She invested every ounce of what she had left into her son's education. Not gold, not land, just belief. She saw something in Carl that the world hadn't yet seen. And her gamble? It paid off. By the time most boys were still learning trades, Carl was walking through the doors of the Karlsruhe Polytechnic School. A boy among men, just 15 years old. Brilliant, yes, but also restless, curious, hungry. He didn't just want to understand machines. He wanted to rewrite the future they moved in. At university, he crossed paths with a man who would alter the course of his life. Ferdinand Rettenbacher, a professor, a visionary, and a quiet prophet of what was to come. Rettenbacher spoke not of steam, but of something more radical, mobility without animals, without tracks, movement born of mechanics, a future on wheels. Carl listened, and something inside him caught fire. He began to imagine a new world, one where people could move freely, independently, without the horse, without the train. A world where power came not from reins or rails, but from within the machine itself. But vision does not pay the bills. Carl spent years wandering the professional wilderness, working job to job, building engines, drawing blueprints, filing patents, always learning, always inching closer, but never quite there. Then in 1871, a turning point. He partnered with a mechanic and opened his own workshop in Mannheim. His dream had a roof now, a place where sparks could fly, and something new could be born. But the dream was fragile. His partner proved unreliable. Debts piled high. Their tools were repossessed. The company was on the verge of collapse. Carl stood at the edge of failure. The dream was slipping through his fingers. And that is when Bertha arrived. Bertha Ringer wasn't just a fiancée. She was a force, fierce, intelligent, and unwavering. She believed in Carl not just with love, but with action. Using her own dowry, her only financial security, Bertha bought out the failing business partner and handed Carl full control. And with that bold move, she did more than save a company. She saved the future. The world mocked the idea of a horseless carriage. Neighbors laughed. Financiers turned away. But behind closed doors, Carl and Bertha pressed on. In silence, in sacrifice, in steel and sweat. And in 1885, after years of sleepless nights and endless failures, the impossible emerged from the shadows of their workshop. The Benz patent motor wagon. It had 3 wheels, a single-cylinder engine, a wooden frame, leather belts, a top speed of 7 miles per hour. It wasn't much to look at, but it moved. On its own, and with that first shudder, with that first self-driven roll across the cobbled floor, the automobile was born. But it was not yet trusted. That's when Bertha made her boldest move. Without telling Carl, she packed up the motor wagon, placed their 2 sons on board, and embarked on a journey no one had ever dared. 106 kilometers, from Mannheim to her mother's house in Pforzheim. There were no road signs, no mechanics, no fuel stations. She stopped at pharmacies to buy Ligroin. She cleared fuel lines with her hairpin. She patched ignition wires with her garter. She drove through mud, over hills, across broken bridges, and sharper doubts. 12 hours later, she arrived. Dirty, exhausted, triumphant. Bertha Benz had just completed the first road trip in human history. The newspapers caught wind. Crowds gathered. Curiosity turned to interest. Orders began to arrive. The motor wagon was no longer a novelty. It was a revolution. Carl refined the machine. In 1893, the Benz Victoria was born. Then came the Benz Velo, the world's first mass-produced car. The dream was no longer just real. It was scalable. But Carl was no longer alone. Just a few towns away, another fire had been lit. Two men, Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach, were building a machine of their own. But where Carl was careful, Daimler was bold. He wanted speed, power, drama, and in 1901, they unveiled the Mercedes 35 horsepower, a sleek, elegant, race-bred machine that looked like the future and sounded like thunder. Carl's boardroom panicked. In desperation, his partners built a racing car without him. It failed. The trust was broken, the dream hijacked. Carl stepped back. Quietly, he remained on the board, but the world he created had already begun to move without him. Then came the storm. World War I shattered Germany. Both Daimler and Benz struggled to survive. Their factories silent, their finances in ruins, and in 1926 they did what no one thought possible. They merged. Daimler-Benz was born, and from this unlikely union came a name that would conquer the world. Mercedes-Benz. But not all of what followed was noble. In the 1930s, Mercedes-Benz became a symbol of the Nazi regime. They built the motorcade for Hitler. They produced engines for war. By 1944, nearly half their workforce were forced laborers, prisoners, civilians, souls trapped in a machine that no longer represented progress, but power. When the war ended, Mercedes-Benz lay in ruins. Factories bombed, assets stripped, the brand stained. But somehow the heartbeat continued. In 1947, they built again, over 1,000 cars that year. Small steps, but firm. By 1954, they were thriving. The 300SL, the S-Class, the innovations, the safety, the rebirth. And through it all, at the core of the star, still lived the spirit of Carl and Bertha, fierce, unrelenting, and unstoppable. Carl passed away in 1929. Bertha followed in 1944. They never saw the full magnitude of what they created. But you do, because today every Mercedes-Benz isn't just a car. It's a tribute to a boy who had nothing, to a woman who gave everything, and to a dream they refused to abandon. Because dreams don't just drive cars, they build them. And some, if believed in enough, build the future. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe to The Positive Pulse for more inspiring story.